Out of Brown County Court. Some more today. A former Green Bay teacher convicted of sexually assaulting his young students receives a lengthy prison sentence. Our Emily Roberts, as you see, is just back in to the newsroom after hearing from one of his victims in court. Emily.
Aisha, I was in the courtroom when 48-year-old David Villarreal was handed down a 50-year prison sentence and 20 years of extended supervision. He taught at Baird Elementary School for 7 years, and some of his former students testified during his trial he touched them inappropriately while in class when they were 7 and 8 years old. Action 2 News was in that courtroom when a jury found him guilty of first-degree sexual assault of a child under 16 using threats, 2 counts of first-degree sexual assault of a child under 13, and repeated acts of sexual assault of the same child. Victims say Villarreal touched and squeezed them inappropriately. One student says he asked her and her friends to have lunch with him, and he gave them toys or candy. An emotional testimony from the mother of a victim today, explaining how Villarreal's actions impacted her daughter's mental health for years.
He stole her innocence, he made her more anxious and negative, and shattered her ability to trust others. He needs to be held accountable. He is a sex offender.
There are some conditions to Villarreal's extended supervision, including joining the sex offender registry, no contact with anyone under 18, and no volunteer work. Aisha.